one day rolls into another. It's just, like every day's the same, it's just the level of pain I'm going to be in.
In 2008, Trish, a medical receptionist, needed surgery to fix damage done during childbirth. Her surgeon implanted polypropylene mesh, but she had problems immediately.
There was all sorts of issues. It really felt like barbed wire. I was walking every step.
Trish has had a dozen surgeries but is still in chronic pain. She says she's used all her super just to survive.
And I'm struggling on a disability pension. So yeah, this is my life sentence.
Yeah. And I said, well, so we're getting conflicting information, and this is what's being...
Trish and her friends were among more than 10,000 women who were part of a class action, which won a record settlement.
The majority of the public believe that we have been compensated. And that it couldn't be further from the truth.
The legal journey can be a long one.
No-win, no-fee law firm Shine ran the class action, promoted by Shine's ambassador, US advocate Erin Brockovich.
Shine will help you along the way.
In 2019, Shine won its case against pharmaceutical giant Johnson & Johnson, which marketed mesh in Australia.
The ruling brings to an end a 7-year class action that became one of the largest of its kind in Australia.
Today's decision is a win for Australian women.
We were feeling highly emotional, elated, overwhelmed. We thought, you know, we've won the case.
Serena Bretcher was one of the members of the class action who travelled from her home in Wodonga, Victoria, for the judgment.
Looking at it like that now, after so many years, it was a big day. It was a good day. It was.
The victory stands, girls. Class of champions. Yeah.
The three lead plaintiffs who brought the claim on behalf of all of the group members were awarded compensation ranging from $500,000 to more than $1 million each.
We felt, well, we obviously, common sense, we'd be getting something possibly similar. Okay, this is the notice of proposed settlement.
3 years later, after 2 failed appeal attempts by Johnson & Johnson, Shine pushed for a settlement of $300 million.
Amongst 15,000 women, 300 million, and within a short period of time, we realised we're not going to get much out of this at all, even for the ones that are most seriously affected. Shine's fees totalling $38 million, just over, for the past professional costs and disbursements.
Out of the $300 million, Shine was asking for $100 million in costs.
It's an obscene amount of money for fees to charge out of the $300 million. It was just obscene, and many other professionals said the same thing.
The numbers get a bit out of control in the class action context. The legal costs are very substantial, and therefore they can significantly erode the settlement value.
Barrister Peter Cashman, who was the king of class actions in the 90s, says class action costs can be excessive.
Well, it's not unusual for members of the senior bar to be billing fees in excess of $20,000 for a day's work.
Despite the objections of hundreds of group members, last year Federal Court Judge Michael Lee approved the settlement.
The proposed settlement sum is within the range of fair and reasonable outcomes, albeit at the lowest end of that scale. But I am troubled by this settlement.
He rejected Shine taking almost a third of the settlement as costs.
I'm not satisfied that the net sum left for group members will be sufficient if the deduction sought is made.
He did not approve the costs. That's one thing Justice Lee did correctly by the women.
Even though most of Shine's costs were denied, it still received $36 million from the settlement. Other lawyers and accountants appointed to administer the funds can also take more than $17 million. On top of that, Medicare, the NDIS and private health funds are entitled to be repaid. estimated to be another $26 million. That means the settlement is likely to be down by close to $80 million before the women receive any compensation. The fund administrators said they expect costs to third parties like Medicare and the NDIS to be significantly less than $26 million.
We feel betrayed, downplayed, belittled.
Despite these costs, Shine said, due to interest, the settlement now should be approaching $300 million. As in all class actions, Shine only signed an agreement about its costs with the lead plaintiffs. The group members didn't know how much Shine would take in costs when they joined the class action.
I think there's a need to sort of step back and have a micro look at the economics of the way in which legal practice is structured and the way in which they charge, because the costs are prohibitive.
Earlier this month, we invited members of the class action to our Sydney offices. It's been more than a year since the settlement.
Then Linda was entwined in the bowel and everything else.
Yeah, so they couldn't get it all.
Couldn't get it all.
I can't afford to have any surgery to fix it.
None of the women have received any money.
The cost of actually distributing the funds is chipping away at the actual amount when it should be going to the members. That's the thing that's so infuriating. And they seem to be able to get away with it.
I don't even know whether I am going to have enough money to get the medical care that I need probably for the next 20 years.
I don't know how they can look at themselves in the mirror and know the suffering of the women and feel justified in taking that amount of money from the settlement.
The fund administrators said they're assessing who's eligible and how much they'll receive, but that the process will not be completed for some time yet. What most of the women didn't know when Shine was urging them to settle was that it potentially had its own financial reasons for doing so. Shine had borrowed millions of dollars at an interest rate of 20% to fund the class action. It had already tried to claim the interest as costs from Johnson & Johnson, but the court had rejected it. Justice Lee questioned whether Shine had a conflict of interest in pushing for a settlement and trying to recoup the interest from the women instead.
The bill was $32 million. It reached $32 million, and they wanted the group members to bear the brunt of that cost, so we could pay that $32 million out of our settlement sum.
In the end, Justice Lee refused to approve the interest costs and expressed concern that Shine was unwilling to recognise how its commercial interests may have influenced its decisions.
Now that seems to me to create a real moral hazard, because the only way it can make a profit and secure a return to its shareholders is by settling rather than running the litigation.
So why do you think Shine wanted you to accept that settlement?
Because they financially needed to accept the settlement.
In a statement, Shine said if they hadn't settled, it would have increased costs, which would have potentially reduced the amount in group members' pockets or seen some group members receive nothing. At the same time that Shine was borrowing millions to fund the class action, it was paying out millions in dividends to shareholders.
The fact that you are paying dividends to non-parties, that is shareholders, out of money that could have otherwise been used to finance the litigation, and to that extent that conflict was obviously apparent.
More than 10,000 women are still waiting to find out how much they'll receive, if anything. Payments need to be finalised by 2027. By that time, the class action will have been going for 15 years.
Shine lawyers won, and the 3 lead applicants as well. 10,000, 15,000 other women that are group members. We're the losers. It's not fair.